Happy New Year and welcome to the Varsity Locker Room podcast. Your host, Frank Kell, and co-host Matt Tabler. This is week 6 of the podcast. Hard to believe here we are. It is New Year's Eve for you and I to record this. I think it's so hard to believe that we've played 6 weeks of basketball at this point. And, there's been a lot of good things, a lot of things that we did not expect. And here we are, talking about some of the surprises. We're going to talk about the recaps of weeks and games of the week, players of the week. But let's just talk about some of the surprises. And I'm still really just baffled about how some officials still don't understand the free throw rules, with the 5, because we were so, for many, many years, used to shooting 1-and-1, 2 shots. And then, still last night, and even a few weeks ago, I was at a game where all 3 officials looked at each other and didn't realize there was 5 fouls. And I just think, how are we so far not caught up to the times yet?
Yeah, I will admit the first game I broadcasted, I forgot about that, but we are, like you said, 5 weeks into it, but everyone makes mistakes. And as long as they get it right. That's the main thing. And there's going to be mistakes.
And I'm still unsure about the 4 corners of violations when the ball's kicked out of bounds, where the safe zones are at. I still have no clue on that. And I still don't think the officials know.
I know there's something to do with if it's a violation, it doesn't get moved. If it's a foul, it does get moved, I think. And they use the discretion on that. It's kind of like when a foul occurs below the free throw line, then it's going to obviously be taken out under and side out.
Yeah. Jump ball,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Again, that's why we need a referee on here to explain this. Maybe even some referees that aren't getting it. We know the experienced ones that could help us out.
They think they're all experienced. I was at the girls' game last night, and all 3 officials had both teams jump ball going the wrong direction. I'm like, and all I said was, wrong way. And then finally the 3rd official comes in and goes, hey, switch it up.
Well, let me make it clear. You didn't say, I guarantee it was a lot louder.
I promise you
your voice carries.
But there was 50 fans in this place, so a mouse could have talked in that place. So, but here we are, week 6. What are some of your surprises that really have caught you? Because you've caught a lot of games recently, as so have I, and obviously we watch a lot of games on WOSN.
Yeah.
What's caught your eye?
If you're looking at the undefeateds, the team that really, really catches my eye is Coach Bryn Lehman over at Defiance and the Bulldogs. And they have some impressive wins. They actually ran their record last night to 8-0 after a buzzer beater against Ottawa, which we'll talk about a little later. But they have nice wins. They beat Toledo St. Francis, who has a very good basketball team. I think they only have 1 loss. But if you're talking about teams with a couple losses that have really, really surprised me, Ada Bulldogs. Ada and Coach Sauter, I feel like he's done a great job. They had a 6-game winning streak going into last night, and I think they have 7 wins on the year, and they've played out of 9 games, 7 on the road. So they're doing that on the road. I know that they haven't been very good the last few years, but I think Coach Sauter's done a fantastic job with them. So those are 2 of the teams. The usual suspects that we kind of figured are up there in terms of, Shawnee, and then you talk about Adelphia St. John's and a Spencerville. Those teams we kind of figured, but for those 2 teams, I feel like they are over exceeding expectations. And maybe the expectations were different in those communities and amongst that coaching staff. But as an outsider looking in, I feel like those 2 teams have done a great job.
Well, you talked about hot teams. I watched Lima Senior on Friday take on a Findlay team that's rebuilding. Coach Gross over there with the Trojans just kind of trying to just survive. And I say survive, they have 1 senior for Findlay, and here's a team that's talented like Lima Senior. Lima Senior just beat the pulse out of them.
Yeah. Are they surprising you on how they're exceeding?
I'm not surprised how they're beating teams. I'm surprised how well they're playing together. There's only one basketball. When you have 5 guys on the floor, they're highly talented, and a lot of expectations are there. And obviously they share the ball so well. When you have Sean Foster, who's one of the premier sophomores, not only in Ohio, but in the country, in the way that he, could easily get his points, he's throwing extra alley-oops, passes to players, to Willie Foster. And, Willie's, averaging 12 points a game. he could easily be scoring a whole lot more if he was with LCC, but it's all about the culture. It's all about what Coach Q's like feeding them, and they're buying into it.
And don't forget like a Jaquel Cotton, who I feel like is a very good passer, and he's averaging 17 or 18 a game. So, yeah, they're willing to give up the ball. Any other surprises that you like?
For a team that's only had probably a few practices, Marion Local. I mean, here's a program that really only had maybe a handful of practices before their first game, and now they're jamming 22 games in this short amount of time, and to come out hot 6-0. I think you and I both have talked about those expectations of where would you expect your team to be, and to be 6-0. And it's not like they've had a really nice schedule.
Yeah, and they're doing this without their point guard, their all-league point guard from last year, and we were making fun of them because they only had 1 or 2 games in last week. Now they've almost caught up to the pack. They got 6 in, and they're going to get 3 more in this week that we'll talk about.
But I think, if you look at Delphos St. John's and Spencerville 8-0, that was, to me, expected. When I say expected, when you have Coach Sensabaugh and Coach Elwer's teams being led by their, both sons, Elwer's and Sensabaugh's out there on the floor, you kind of expected that. But they have not had a light schedule. And we've always talked about how the MAC is challenging. It's tough. You've made the prediction there will be no undefeated in the MAC. I like that chance of St. John's going undefeated, but there's still a lot of basketball to be played in the month of January.
And these two coaches, they're not taking this for granted because they have been on the other side. And we'll kind of talk about this in the cold section when we get there. But they're not going to take it for granted because they've had some lean years where they didn't have the talent that they have this year. And they were getting beat, 7, 8, even 12 times a year. And so to go undefeated, I've been on that side. I've been where we've been really good and where we've been really bad. And fortunately, we started out really bad and then we got good at Perry. So I didn't take these wins for granted because I knew how it felt when we struggled. So for all those struggling coaches out there, I don't need to be telling you this. You hang in there, you keep fighting, you keep teaching your kids, you remain positive, and good things will come. Whether it's next week, whether it's by the end of the year, or whether it's years to come, you just got to hold in there.
You are listening to the Varsity Locker Room podcast. Hosts Frank Kell and Matt Tabler. We'll be recapping week 5 of high school boys basketball. The scoreboard is recapped, sponsored by Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Professional Realty. Let's find your dream home. See Dalton Brenner for all your real estate needs. Deal with Dalt. So again, our talk of the game this week was Shawnee, and LCC. LCC goes on the road at Shawnee. Shawnee gets a big win at home. It's one of those things. It was a rematch from the tip-off championship, but a whole different outcome, and you were able to call that game.
Yeah, and it was a good game of the week, and I felt like I said this 2 or 3 times on the broadcast, but this was high-quality basketball at a high level. Both teams really impressed me the way they played. Shawnee, after seeing them week 1 as opposed to week 5, the strides this team has made. And coach, and you started to see it with their scores and everything. And Coach Tripp and we sat down and talked before the game, and he was so positive on how these guys now have gotten a few weeks under their belt together. And he even took a few games to get those because of soccer coming late, not having the guys in the summer because they were playing soccer and stuff like that. But he was really high on it. And then when I got a chance to watch them in person, they were really, really impressive. In LCC, I mean, they fought. They were right there. I mean, I thought Azad Burton played a great game, 27 points. Jordan Pretty came out hot, 22. I think the big thing was that Coach Tripp went to a diamond and 1 on Pretty, and then when Burton got hot, he went to a triangle and 2. I mean, he can put any defense in, and these guys buy into it. And really the deciding factor in this whole game was a 6-point game with 3 minutes to go, or 2.5 minutes to go in the fourth or third quarter. And then just like that, Shawnee just goes on this run. Couple turnovers by LCC. They didn't have many in the game, but they were untimely turnovers. They go on that 13-2 run to push the lead out to 65-48. But what was most impressive is the way Shawnee rebounded the basketball. Yep. They had 17 rebounds. They took 29 threes.
17 offensive rebounds.
Yes. Oh, yeah, 17 offensive rebounds. They took 29 threes, and I think Coach Tripp's okay with that as long as they're hitting the glass.
Right.
And you talk about a Trevick Berkey who scored his career high in 32 points that night, and he had 13 rebounds, 5 of those offensive putbacks. I mean, he was a man on a mission going in there. He was okay with other guys shooting the three. And then Beckett, his brother, backed him up with 22. And Tate Bender, I felt like, played another good game. And Tate Bender was one of those guys that was in that one on the triangle and then, or in the diamond. And then when they went to two people being face guarded in the triangle and two, they would just rotate the role players on them, and they did a fantastic job.
Capability of going with a guy like Tate Bender, Ojo, and some of the other guards off the bench to go to a triangle too, because you can put Beckett Berkey, Travick Berkey, and Jagger Hutchins out there in the triangle. You have great rebounders, and all you have to do is defend the two best players for LCC. Great things are going to happen defensively. But you said it best. This is the Achilles heel for LCC. They don't rebound very well, and they just feasted on the offensive rebound. As you said, for 17 rebounds offensively, that's going to give you extra possessions. And as a coach, it's so demoralizing when you go so hard and you get a defensive stop and give up an offensive rebound. It's just gut-wrenching.
And going along with that, I kept stats along the way. Shawnee took 21 more shots than LCC did, and thus the final score. Shawnee wins at 74-59. Elsewhere in the WBL, Bryan played at Salina. Bryan defeated the Bulldogs 60-58. Kenton went over to Macomb, and Macomb got their first win of the year as they won 54-45. Dawson Miller led Kenton with 22 points. Cardinal Stritch, they're coming down here and playing some WBL teams. We'll see them play again another one on Saturday night. They played over at Bath. Bath defeated them 75-41. Logan Markley led the Wildcats with 28 points. And then one other game in the WBL, and that was St. Mary's. They hosted the Bearcats of Spencerville, and Spencerville, once again, 70-34. Owen Sensabaugh had 17. Jude Steeman had 14, and Grady Smith had 11.
We'll move to the Northwest Conference. Bluffton took on Emmanuel Christian, I believe, at the University of Bluffton. Bluffton gets the big win, 63-44. Grove at Lipsick. Grove beats Lipsick 80-60. And, I thought this was a huge game for the Bulldogs traveling to Lipsick, but Grove had 6 guys in double figures for the first win. To me, it was a big surprise because you're on the road at Lipsick, but Grove was led by Trevin Baxter with 16 points, Brady Basinger 12 points, Trenton Barraza with 12, Kyle Hopkins with 12, and Gavin Barraza 11 points, and Landon Bess 11 points.
That's nice for your ball club, and you're going to see this with the stats on all their games. They put, I think, at least 4 guys in double figures in the 3 games they played since the last time we did a podcast.
That's unbelievable. Allen East travels to Corey Rawson, gets a big win, 59-15. Ottoville at Crestview. Crestview gets the big win at home, 70-30. Tommy Hefner for the Knights leads them with 18 points, and Hayden Parrott with 16 points, and Braxton Leaf and Will Sheets 12 points. Delphus Jefferson travels to Delphus St. John's. This is one of those games you and I talked about. Yeah. What was the point spread going to be? Well, Delphus St. John's 74, Jeff Cats 29. Blue Jays were led by Andrew Elwer with 25 points, and Cam with a quiet 21 points. And then Kalida at Lincolnview. Kalida gets the big win at the Lancers Dome. I don't even know if it's the Lancer Dome. Sounds really good, but Kalida was led by Jackson Schrader, 18 points. Jackson Hoffman with 14 points. Lincolnview was led by Max Hammonds, 12 points, and Chase Overholt, 12 points.
In the MAC, we had Coldwater. They went over to Ansonia and got their first win of the year as they defeated Ansonia 63-24. I think actually their second win because I think they beat Walpole. No, it was their first win of the year. I'm sorry. It's right there in my notes. Coldwater was led by Braylon Blockberger, 22 points, 10 rebounds, 4 steals. Nice stat line. Parkway went over and played their first round at the Centerburg Grandview Heights Holiday Tournament, and the Grandview Heights Holiday Tournament. They faced Centerburg, and they beat them 52-45. Fort Recovery hosted South Adams and won 52-42. Fort Recovery was led by Briggs Overman's 15 and Breaker Judy with 13. And Marion Local went over to St. Henry, won 58-50. Austin Niekamp led the Flyers with 16 points. Grant Kramer with 13. Cale Arns with 10. While St. Henry's Brody Schwartz had 11 and Carter LaGuire had 10. Minster over at Botkins. Botkins destroys Minster, which is kind of a surprise. I know Botkins is pretty good, but that's a lopsided score. Botkins won 65-39. Cole McClure led Minster with 11 points, and New Bremen went over and got a win at Hardin Northern. They defeated the Polar Bears 26.
In the BVC, Ada takes on Perry at Perry, and Ada gets a big win, 51-35. The game was scoreless through the first 4 minutes of the game, but Ada goes on to win the quarter 16-2. That's a heck of a run to finish the last 4 minutes. But Ada led 22-9 at half and 35-18 after 3 quarters. But Ada has won 5 in a row at that point. They played 7 of their 9 games on the road. I mean, when you become road warriors, you learn a lot about your team. Obviously, you're building a lot of like fortitude and toughness, because it's hard to win on the road. It's hard to go on the road. And when you play 5 of your 7, it really builds a lot of character. Ada was led by Zach Zimmerman's 24 points and Carson Conley's 9 points. Perry was led by Amir Warner's 7 points. Arlington Red Devils take on Wayne Trace at the McDonald's tournament at Bluffton University. Arlington wins 48-44. Jace Vermillion with 14 points and Calvin Willow with 13. And Trenton Haycock, 11 points. Elmwood at Gibsonburg. Gibsonburg wins 62-38. Van Buren at Otsego. Otsego wins 64-58. Liberty Benton versus Genoa with the Steve Williman Classic. LB wins 63-40. And Patrick Henry at Pandora. Boy, PH is a team right now a lot of people are talking about. And Pandora Gilboa goes down to PH 66-41. PG was led by Lane Lee's 15 points.
In the PCL, Temple played over at Fort Jennings. Fort Jennings got another win, 60-37. They were led by Jaron Swick, 16 points, and Calvin Menkes, 13. Derek Schultz led all scorers, and he is from Temple. He had 18. Tenora went over to Miller City. This one's a big surprise to me.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah, and beats the Wildcats 46-43. Now, there's a few names that we've been calling for Miller City that I did not see them in the box score, and I kind of want to text coach, don't want to bother him too much, just see if they have some injuries going on. But the deciding factor was being outscored in the third quarter 20-5. Brendan Barledge led the Wildcats with 19, and Henry Rump had 10. And then we went over to the Northwest Central Conference. This was the game in the Hoosier Dome that Coach Kill and I would not touch if our life depended on it. And USV, even though probably about 25 miles separate these two schools, they traveled a very long way to win 61-40.
Sounds like a good idea over Christmas break.
And East Knox at Ridgedale. Ridgedale wins 60-55.
And in the game I got to call on Friday, Finley at Lima Senior. Lima Senior was led by Jaquel Cotton's 20 points and Sean Foster 16 and Noah Simpson 15. But Lima gets the big win, 84-34. Absolute just butt whooping in the third quarter. Lima Senior came out, balls just flaming, just fought. They were just threes. I mean, 3 after 3. And
what were those balls doing?
They were, I kept saying, boom goes the dynamite, because they were on fire.
All right, on Saturday in the WBL, we had Ansonia at Salina. Salina got the victory 66-38. New Bremen went over to Elida. There were 15 threes made in this game. Elida wins at 70-53. Nice to see the Bulldogs put up 70 points. Zori Island knocked down 5 threes and had 21 points, along with Amari Walsh's 21. New Bremen's Gavin Quellhorst hit 3 of their threes and had 13 points. LCC played over at OG. You had this call, and it was LCC victorious 53-39. Jeffrey Williams led the way with 17, Jordan Pretty's 13, and Azad's 11. And OG's Adam Mag had 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. What'd you see? We've talked about LCC a lot, and you talked about Jeffrey doing a good job. Did you? What'd you see out of OG?
I saw a lot of inexperience is what I saw, because, you think about OG over the years, and they have 2 seniors, and unfortunately Grady Tomazos gets hurt, at the end of the game in the fourth quarter. And it was really kind of a difference maker, but it was the first time I was at an LCC OG game where the crowd was like not there. I mean, anywhere you wanted to sit, you could sit. But for me, Jeffrey Williams was the spark to the T-Bird offense, the spark to the T-Bird defense. He was Speedy Williams on both ends of the floor, made a lot of great plays. I think he had like 5 steals for the game. But here's a freshman coming off the bench, and if you're Coach Powell, you love knowing you have that spark that's going to bring, if your starters don't bring it, you have a guy like Jeffrey Williams. I remember in 2010-11, I had a guy like Austin Staley come off the bench, who was the state MVP the year before. Having that 6th man to be able to bring that energy is a game changer.
Yeah. St. Mary's played over at Cardinal Stritch. St. Mary's wins this 63-56. We had Walpock at Coldwater. Balin Blockberger again led Coldwater with 8 rebounds, 25 points as they defeated Walpock 68-48. That was their second win. As well as we had Van Wert at Ottoville. And Ottoville, I'm trying to get a gauge here because they got a couple games where they've gotten running clocked, and then they got a couple games where I don't know. Anyways, they beat the Cougars 45-44. That was a good one, but Van Wert missed a pair of free throws at the end of the game to lose that one. Ottoville was led by Landon Hortzman's 13 points and Ashton Miller's 11. Van Wert was led by Keaton Welsh and Zach Crummey's 12 points.
We have Columbus Grove at Patrick Henry, and we've talked about the stock on Patrick Henry. I was really high. Columbus Grove was led by Brady Basinger and Trenton Barraza. Kyle Hopkins each had 12 points. That's 36 points of their 53, but not enough because Patrick Henry beats them 68-53. Versailles at Tippecanoe. Versailles gets a big win on the road, 64-45. Versailles was led by Drake Arns and Blake Monin, 20 points. Pettysville at Delphus St. John's. Pettysville goes down 80-49. St. John's was led by Cam Elwers, 31 points, and Andrew also had 26 for the Elwer brothers. Fort Recovery at Marion Local. This was a non-league game of the Battle of Route 119. Marion Local gets the big win, 64-43. They were led by Austin Niecamp's 22 points and Grant Kramer's 13 points and Ryan Homan's 10. And then Grant Fortcamp for Fort Recovery has 15 points. Anna at Minster. Minster's gets the big win, 69-46. Minster was led by Cole McClure and Cole Albers, 17 points. Parkway at Grandview Heights, the holiday tournament. Parkway gets the big win, 47-43 as the champions. They were led by Trevor Stearns, who was the tournament MVP. New Knoxville at Temple, and New Knoxville gets a big win on the road, 49-37.
In the BVC, we had Ada at Elgin. Ada wins 56-25. Ada just continues to win. We're seeing this. Zach Zimmerman led the Bulldogs with 14. Caleb Hickman had 11 points. Waynesfield was defeated by Arcadia 44-34. Otsego took out Elmwood. Riverdale beat Wintford. Macomb was defeated by Hardin Northern, and Corey Rawson was beat by Van Buren 73-34. Looking at a few other games, Liberty Benton played in the championship game of their Steve Williman Classic and was defeated. I was looking for this matchup. Perrysburg wins a game in overtime to get to the championship game. Perrysburg knocks off Liberty Benton 69-62. Then the game that probably could have been the game of the week, but we didn't know if it was going to happen or not, was Arlington at Bluffton in the McDonald's Tournament Championship over at Bluffton University. And this game was a game of runs. And you would expect that from two undefeated teams that are really well coached and are really good. Arlington comes out on top 55-53. Bluffton started the game on a 10-2 run, but Arlington closed the first quarter on a 5-0 run to make it 10-7. Then Bluffton led 24-19 at half. Bluffton pushed the lead up in the third quarter 30-21. But then Arlington goes on another 11-0 run to take a 2-point lead in the fourth quarter. It seesawed back and forth, but Arlington comes out victorious 55-53.
You talk about Jace Vermillion getting 13 points and Aiden Cavaney, 13 points with Brady Griggs, 12 points. Bluffton was led by Merrick Donaldson's 20. But, man, you talk about the weekend that Jace Vermillion had. I mean, he has 14 on Friday and then 13 on Saturday. Just a steady Eddie point guard. Obviously, I know it's the coach's son, but you love seeing that out of your point guard.
Yeah. Well, in the PCL, Kalida took on Pandora. Kalida was victorious 50-31. That pushes Kalida's record up to 5-5 and 1-0 in the PCL. Jackson Schrader led the Wildcats with 14. Pandora's Corey Girton had 14. Miller City played over at Paulding. They got back on the winning track as they beat the Panthers 55-45. Miller City's Brendan Barledge again led the Wildcats with 25. And then we had Lipsick at Fort Jennings. Fort Jennings, I'm telling you, they're turning it on. They win 62-43. They were led by Calvin Menke's 21. Ty Lammers had 13 points for Lipsick.
Mount Gilead at Ridgemont. Ridgemont gets the big win, 85-72. Saturday night, big matchup over at Spartan Way. Toledo Central Catholic comes down and takes on the Spartans. Spartans get a big win at home, 76-62. Jaquel Cotton, 4 points on 4 field goal attempts and foul trouble most of the game. To me, that's kind of a huge, obviously big factor. But you have Boog Wilson, who didn't play Friday night with a little toe injury that he's been lingering with all since football season.
Didn't affect him.
24 points on 9 of 13 shooting. Huge game for Boog. And again, that's what you get out of the Spartans. One guy goes out with foul trouble. One guy steps up. Big buckets for Boog Wilson. Noah Simpson, high energy, off the bench with 9 points. He was 4 of 6. Lima led 35-23 at the half after scoring 24 points in the second quarter. Again, that's what Lima Senior does. They just go on waves of scoring. And when those waves happen, it's almost like a tsunami. You cannot stop it. After 3, the Spartans led 52-49, so only a 3-point lead right there. But then Spartans start the fourth quarter on a 7-2 run. Back-to-back threes by Wilson. Lima Senior shoots 30 of 53, which is 53%. Great night of just being able to score with efficiency. Willie Foster ends up with 15 points along with Sean Foster's 12.
Well, I think you have a good basketball team when your leading scorer is in foul trouble, only takes 4 shots, only scores 4 points, and you can still beat a very good Toledo Central Catholic team. I mean, that just shows how deep that Lima Senior can go and how good they actually are.
Each team had high-profile athletes. TCC has a player that's really a big prospect in terms of the collegiate level, along with Lima Seniors. So it was a very well-attended game, highly, packed crowd. In an environment like that, you love seeing that. And if you're Lima, you love seeing that at home, because getting a big win like that just does a lot for your morale, because they don't play until January 10th.
And against Toledo Start,
right?
Who Toledo Start has a nice season going, and I think they split with Start and Scott last year for the TCAL last year, so it was a 3-way tie.
And then last night, Defiance at OG. Defiance gets their first victory over Ottawa Glandorf since 2015-16 season. The Bulldogs were led by Trey Singleton. He took on a blob play, which was an out of bounds play. So for those that don't know what the BLOB means, baseline out of bounds. So a lot of times if you're watching basketball, like, they talk about the blob or the slob. Well, this is the blob. To get the buzzer beater shot as time expired.
Well,
and if you're a home person at Ottawa, so demoralizing.
Yeah. The play they run is a common play. They put Trey Singleton. He gets the ball out in the corner, and Khalil Ligon, who's their leading scorer, is taking the ball out of bounds, and he fakes the handoff to him in the corner, and they both defenders go with Khalil, who's been the leading scorer all night, and it left Trey Singleton wide open because the out of bounds play occurred with like 5.9 on the clock. And he goes and lays it in at the buzzer.
If you're Coach McLaughlin right now, and you think
what else can go wrong
so well, but then with the last ticking seconds and it goes the other way, at home. And if you are the OG Titan faithful, good for you for showing up to support the team. But good win for the Bulldogs to go on the road at OG. Big win, WBO win, by the way,
yes,
on a Monday.
On a Monday. And then we had another good game last night. We were talking about Allen East and Grove last week and how Grove's dominated this series. Well, it continued, but in dramatic fashion, as Trent Barraza makes 1 of 2 free throws with 1 second on the clock after Deacon Jones just hit 3 free throws with 6.9 seconds to go. Now, I hope these were truly fouls. I wasn't there. I didn't watch the game. I don't know who the referees are, but that's a lot of free throws, 5 free throws in the last 7 seconds to decide the game. But anyways, Grove ends up winning 64-63. Ada went over to Lincoln View, and Lincoln View snaps Ada's 6-game winning streak by winning 52-47. St. Henry was victorious over Fort Recovery. Marion Local went over to Anna and defeated them. And then 2 other games we had was North Baltimore at Hilltop. North Baltimore was victorious, and Ridgedale beat Triad.
You are listening to the Varsity Locker Room podcast with Frank Hill and Matt Taylor. Game of the week this week, we're going to be talking about Marion Local at Versailles. They both are undefeated at this point. This is brought to you by Frickers of Lima, where now for the winter season, stop by and get select appetizer half price after 9 p.m. Perfect for the ball games, practice, or to end a long work day.
Well, I think this is a great game. Marion Local 6-0, Versailles 7-0. So obviously both undefeated in the conference. I think we put them all in the top with Delphus St. John's and Minster. And Minster obviously has a a loss to the Blue Jays. But, man, this is a big matchup, and it's still in 2024, but it will actually be a 2025 game when they play this. Last year, Marion Local won 56-43, but over the last 10 meetings, they are tied 5-5. And so I think it's a good matchup. You look at the scoring, these stats are a little behind because Marion Local is playing so many games, it's hard to keep up with their stats. But Marion Local scoring 62 points per game, which is second in the MAC, while only giving up 38 points a game, which is second in the MAC. And they win by a margin of 24 points. Versailles is scoring 56.5, which is third in the MAC, and they give up 35 points a game, which is first in the MAC. And they've been winning by 21.5 points. Right now, Marion Local, which surprises me this early in the season, 50% from the floor, while Versailles is shooting 51.4%.
Well, you think about Marion Local, they're led by Daniel Everman, but he's the point guard. He's been out since mid-January, again with they say, a minor knee injury. Anytime you're talking about anytime you're talking about a knee,
yeah,
it could be a chip bone. I'm saying it is, you're right, but it's still a knee, and it's always going to be lingering. It's always going to be hurt, but you would love to get him back. But again, you got Austin Niekamp, who's averaging 16.5 points with Grant Kramer's 15.5 points. So you're getting great production, but as soon as you get that point guard back, maybe they go to another level. Versailles was led by they're led by Jace Watron, 17.3 points a game. Drake Arns 11.8, and Blake Monins 11.7 points a game with 5 rebounds. I'm going home team. I think you go on the road. I don't know about you. I know how hard it is to win at Marion Local. I know how hard it is at Versailles. I took many losses at Versailles because it's a tough place, and Coach Swank does a great job of getting their guys up and ready. Again, this is a big league game to continue on, but man, what a great matchup this is. And if you're Marion Local, you got to be still living off the momentum of the football season. The community still building around you. You got an undefeated team. Man, this is going to be a great environment.
Well, if you are looking at Versailles to win, the first thing they're going to have to do is be extremely physical, because that's what you have to do in the MAC, and that's what you have to do against Marion Local. And then you got to rebound the basketball. You talk about those two guys in Grant Kramer and Austin Niekamp. They go to the glass, and they go to the glass hard. So they're going to have to secure the rebound, and then they're going to have to contest all those shots of Niekamp and Kramer. And then a big thing that's led to Versailles scoring so many points is they got to score in transition. And if Marion Local slows them down and has good transition defense, you're looking for them to move the ball side to side to make those big guys move a little bit, take those rim protectors away from the basket, and be able to score. So that's what I would say would be the keys to victory for Versailles.
And this is Friday, January the 3rd. So you probably only have maybe one day of practice, after the new year. And again, guys have been sluggish. They've been out of their rhythm and their routine. So, this could really go down to the wire.
Yeah. And then if on Marion Local side, taking away their easy baskets. So you're talking about the transition and getting them on the offensive end. Are you able to score off live ball turnovers? Do you have good out of bounds plays? Are you crashing the glass? And then be able to guard Versailles guards. They're very good. Guard that perimeter, and then adjust to how Versailles is defending them. You're going to have to be able to adjust to any of those in-game adjustments, but these kids are well-seasoned. They're successful in all sports, and that's just going to be a great matchup to bring in the new year.
Again, the Varsity Locker Room podcast is brought to you by Frank Kill and Matt Tabler. Conference Rundown brought to you by Stolly Insurance, looking for you and your family over 100 years. Top-tier agents who treat you with respect and get you the answer you need when you need them.
Okay, we have a lot of games over the week. We're just going to highlight a few throughout. There's games on Thursday. There's games on Friday. There's games on Saturday, the following Monday, Tuesday. But just a few to look at. The first ones are in the WBL. We have Salina playing over at Walpock. Walpock won last year, 36-25. Walpock has won 9 out of the last 10 meetings, including 9 in a row. 6 of the last 10 meetings, though, have been decided by single digits. So it's been a very close game. It's two teams that we probably predicted to be about middle of the pack of the WBL. So this should be a good contest. We also have Van Wert playing over at Elida. Last year, Elida won 52-46, but Van Wert holds a 7-3 record over the last 10 meetings. It's not over the last 10 years because they match up in the tournament a lot. So that should be another good game. That's probably another must win for Elida to stay in that hunt. You got that loss, and so you're trying to just stay one game because you get 2 games behind, especially when you got high caliber Shawnee Indians. That's not going to be able to catch. You're not going to be able to catch that.
No.
So you're just hoping that maybe a Defiance could knock off Shawnee, and then you could knock off Defiance and put yourselves in the mix for a coach.
Well, if you're Elida, you continue to use this momentum, and for Coach Howard being the rookie coach, having a game at home against a young Van Wert team. This is not one of those games. It's kind of like a trap game. You got to continue to play at your best.
Yeah. And then in the MAC, we had Delphos St. John's going over to Parkway. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, they do, but that's not the one we're talking about. We have Spencerville going over to Minster. Spencerville won last year 68-51. But again, this series has been tied 5-5 in the last 10 times they have met. All right. Moving on to the Northwest Conference on Saturday, January 4th.
Well, we got the Northwest Conference, to me, January 4th, Defiance at LCC. This is 2 teams. Again, this is advantage LCC because going to Defiance is never fun. It's a tough place to play, and especially now that they're playing extremely well. Good for the T-Birds to get a home game on January 4th. LCC won last year 54-41. This is a series picked up back in 2015-16 during my reign, because it was one of those games that we played at the end of the year because, both teams at the time were very successful, and we always had kind of the, conference bye or a week off, and we always wanted to play that Saturday. But, LCC is 5-4 during that time. Great matchup. Both Layman's, Coach Kirk and Bren, are 2 great coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Loved our rapport that we had together. Obviously 2 guys I have mad respect for. Obviously they're very successful, but again, I think LCC, this is a great game for them right now to not have a conference game to pick up.
Yeah. And then you got Coldwater going over to Elida. Last year, Elida won 44-42. Elida holds an 8-2 record over the last 10 meetings. The games have been decided by an average of 7.1 points in those games. And I know every time that we played them, when I was there for the 3 years, every game was a close game. It didn't matter where it was being played.
Shawnee at Delphos St. John's. Wow.
This is going to be a hot ticket right here.
I thought about as I'm preparing my weekend, I go Thursday, Friday with covering, but do I, as a spectator, go to Delphos St. John, show them my pass, get in the game, hopefully maybe standing remotely.
Look at you playing the pass card.
Hey, learn from the best, Coach Sagerson. But Shawnee at Delphos St. John. Shawnee won last year 65-58. Shawnee is 7-3 over the last 10 meetings. The first time for the 2 teams to meet since was 1957. Delphos St. John holds the record, all-time record, 35-30. Delphos St. John's has guys shooting over 53% from the 3. Boggs, Swick, Andrew Elwer, and Cam Elwer.
Yeah, 4 guys over 53%.
I mean, so you really have to guard the perimeter while defending the basket.
And so how does Coach Tripp play this? Like he showed that he can play a triangle and 2, a diamond and 1, a 3-2. I look for him to do a little triangle and 2. If you're going into it, you're going to pick 2 guys that aren't going to beat you. And that's Cam and Andrew Elwer. The other guys, if they hit 3s, you shake their hand and move on. I just think this is a great matchup.
You think about Boggs and Swick, but also another guy who's really playing with a lot of confidence is Easton Elwer, a guy that comes, who he's a freshman. So again, it's also about picking your poison. What do you want to do? And can you speed them up? Sure, you can speed them up, but they're really good playing fast too. So this is going to be a great game. So if you get a ticket for this, don't stand out front because there might be some scalpers out there looking to get into the Vatican.
Well, we are so spoiled in this area. We have so many great matchups over the holidays that people can go out and watch. So it kind of baffles me sometimes when fans don't show up to games. Like, this is high quality basketball in this area, and they just, I guess, a lot of people don't know how spoiled they are.
But this is what I love most. If you're Aaron Elwer, you have beefed up your schedule.
Yes.
Some people would say, why is a Delphos St. John's, a Division 7 team, playing a Shawnee team who's, Division 4? Because they want to play the best. And why would you want to travel so far to play a team that's just in your division when you can play a local team that's right around the corner and get a great environment?
And the same way goes for Coach Tripp. I mean, if you're going to schedule a Division 7 team, you're going to schedule someone like Delphos St. John's who could compete in Division 3 with the squad they have.
Absolutely.
So you're listening to the Varsity Locker Room with Matt Tabler and Frank Kill. We are now going to our Players of the Week picks. Player of the Week's picks are sponsored by Henderson Concrete. For affordable, high-quality concrete services, trust Henderson Concrete Construction. With over 20 years of experience, they deliver reliable, durable results on time, every time. Choose Henderson Concrete Construction for a job done right. Call Adam today for your free estimate at 419-235-1387.
I love the fact that you are so Johnny on the spot. You're so depth in your stats. And I'm going to go right now with my pick with Jace Vermillion, who won the McDonald's Classic at Bluffton University last week, beating a Wayne Trace and beating a Bluffton. Arlington is playing great basketball, but I think it takes great basketball because you have great leadership, and great leadership comes from a great point guard. And Jace Vermillion went 14-13 last week. Here's a kid that's a coach's kid, and a lot of times you get a lot of scrutiny and a lot of criticism. Oh, well, you're the dad's coach. You're the dad's favorite. Yeah, he's probably the favorite because he does what's asked.
And he's the best.
And he's the best. But a lot of times people from outside, the third party that looks in, and says, well, he's only playing or he's only getting all those shots because he's the coach's kid. No, he just does everything right because that's what dad asks him to do, and the son just obeys his father.
And he's well instructed over the years. I mean, he's been coached at a high level since he started basketball. He wasn't coached by any Joe Schmo, so he knows the right plays to make. That's what makes him so dynamic. He's just not a scorer. He's a facilitator on the floor. He guards every possession, and just like you said, he does what is asked of him to do.
Well, I think about we have a lot of dads right now that are coaching their kids.
Yeah.
You think of the Elwers, the Sensenballs, the Berkeys, even Bender.
Yeah.
Simpson, they're all well coached. They're all disciplined and they're good players. But you look at a Jace Vermillion, who probably doesn't get the spotlight a lot of the guys around here do because we cover Lime a lot. But a Jace Vermillion does everything little and he does it right.
Well, it is well deserved. So he gets that. And just going along that theme with the coach's son, mine this week was Andrew Elwer. Going into last week, he was only averaging 13.7. I say only. He's only a sophomore is what I should say. He shoots 55% from three-point land. But his weekend, he was, for the first time, someone other than Cam being the leading scorer. On Friday night against Delphos Jefferson, he led the Blue Jays with 26 points. Then he turns around the next night against Pennsville and scores 25. And he's led them to an 8-0 start. So I just feel like Andrew had a very good weekend, 51 points, especially I haven't seen the shots, but I would imagine that Cam probably almost doubles his shot total. But Andrew just filling up the basket. And again, he's added such a dynamic part to his game by being able to attack the rim and just not shoot the three. Yeah.
What's Pettysville's mascot?
Well, first off, it's Pettisville, not Pettysville.
No, it's Pettysville.
It's Pettisville.
I went to school with a Pettysville graduate.
Okay, well, we're going to check on this one. It has to be Pettisville.
No, it's Pettysville.
What's their mascot?
Yep.
Well, I saw them all praying after.
Can't pronounce it.
No, it's not Pettysville. It's Pettisville.
Petties.
Okay. Is it Antwerp or Antwerp?
Antwerp.
Okay, you got that one right. I'm going to say the Cougars.
The Blackbirds.
The Blackbirds. Well, then maybe Pettysville then.
You are listening to the Varsity Locker Room podcast with Frank Kill and Matt Tabler. Our next segment will be Who's Hot and Who's Cold, brought to you by American Heating and Air Conditioning. American Heating and Air Conditioning is dedicated to providing the best possible solution for your home or business. You can count on us to provide you with a system and solution that fits your unique needs. And since we've installed many systems in this area, we've earned a reputation for doing the job right the first time.
Well, I'm going to start out with the hot because I'll let you lead us into the cold. But just talking about some teams that are unbeaten for the year, we kind of alluded to them earlier this year with Marion Local being 6-0 and Defiance being a surprising 8-0. But the Spencerville Bearcats are 8-0. They're still hot. Versailles, someone's going to have to give this Friday between Versailles and Marion Local, as Versailles is 7-0. Arlington, after winning the McDonald's tournament over at Bluffton University, is at 9-0, and the Blue Jays of Delphos St. John's are 8-0. Those are my hot teams right now. Obviously, those are no-brainers when you haven't lost a game yet here in 2024.
Well, and you know what? You want to get off on a good start in 2024. I've always said in basketball as a coach, I always said there's 3 seasons to a season. You have your season, the 2024 that
Yep.
you're in right now. Get off to a good note. You want to get off hot, and as these teams are. But then you want to start the new season, the new year off in 2025 on even a better note, because that's going to take the momentum that you want for your third season. And
which is a tournament.
Which is your tournament. Because once you get to the tournament, really, everybody is at 0-0.
Yeah.
Scratch all records. It's one and done, or move on. So you want to continue to be playing your best basketball.
Well,
who's hot, who's not.
Yeah, well, speaking of records, this is the cold section, and it's really this is hard because this team, we've both been there. I've been there as a player because we talk about crowd sizes. I mean, my junior year, I play about half the games, half the time in every game, and we go 26-1, and you couldn't get a ticket for any of our games. I mean, everything was sold out, the old Lima Senior. And then the following year, we start out the season and we're 2-5, and we hardly have anybody at our games. And it's like, man, like we worked our butts off, but we also we're on a team that put a big X on our back that everybody wanted to get, knowing that we did lose a lot of talent. And so we ended up turning our season around. We got 14 wins. We got to a district. We just kept persevering. So kind of when we talk about this cold section, and you've done a game and I've done a game, it's the OG Titans and what they're experiencing right now.
And it's gut-wrenching if you're Coach McLaughlin, because you've been so successful for so long. And I say so long, even as a program, the Titans have not suffered really a below 500 record. And I say below 500 record since 1990. 1990, they were 7-15. So they have been in double-figure wins.
34 years.
Oh, don't remind me. It makes me feel really old. But they have recorded double-figure wins every year. Even though in 1991 they went 10-13, they still recorded 10 wins. I remember coming out of our 2015-16 season, winning the state championship and winning 6 games. And if you're Coach McLaughlin, what are you thinking? Well, for me, what was I thinking was, I got to continue to build these young men who are here fighting every day to let them know, like, yes, the wins and losses do matter. Winning matters. But what you're doing and how you play matters more. Mm-hmm. And what you do for your community is even better. I watched this game on Saturday against LCC at OG, and I thought, where are the OG Titan faithful?
Yeah, that's what kills
me. I told my mother and my wife the other day that it was find your own seat wherever you wanted to sit.
Yeah.
The upper deck, the second deck was always full. My mom and my parents always had to sit in the last row because that's where they felt the safest, but it was always packed down in front. And you could go anywhere at the Supreme Court to find a seat. And for OG fans, like, to me, these kids deserve it. As you said, they fought. They had to play behind some of the greats for the last 4 years. Yeah. And these guys right now they're competing. They're playing young. They have a Shoemaker that's playing really well. Brad Shoemaker's, second oldest kid. He's a freshman. Looked really good against the T-Birds. I can only see his upside being even greater as the season goes on and as the future goes on. But for the OG Titans, to me, they're cold right now, and it's unfortunate because these kids and the coaching staff deserve better.
Yeah, and they're fighting, and that's the big word, is they're fighting, because I didn't think them playing LCC would be as close as it was, a 14-point game.
4-point game going in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, so Coach McLaughlin's getting them better. And then last night, they had an opportunity to take a 1-point lead with 6 seconds to go against a undefeated Defiance Bulldog team. So, I mean, I kind of relate them back to my senior year, that they're going to get this turned around as long as they keep fighting. And I know they will, because they have a lot of pride. They know who they play for. And so I really think that they're going to turn this around. But unfortunately, we live in a society where everyone loves a winner. And if you're not winning, then you don't get people to show up. And that's unfortunate, because these kids work just as hard as all those other kids that came before.
I do give credit to the Blues Crews. They showed up.
There we go. Yes, that's awesome.
They were there for their classmates, teammates. But, the schedule doesn't look bright right now. They play Huntington Valley University School. Don't know anything about them, but I can only imagine they're pretty good. Worcester Triway and Elida. So their next conference game is Elida on January the 10th. So, for them to to have any confidence, they need their crowd behind them.
Well, and again, that's a cold section, but it's not cold section towards OG. Just, I think with everything that they've done over the last 35 years, that it's a little cold for them right now. But like I said, Coach McLaughlin will get this turned around.
Well, maybe this will spark the Titans, because I know I'm one of their favorite coaches. So maybe this will have them coming out.
Didn't you put them in the same category as
Satan and Hitler's? No, they put me in the same category.
Okay, I thought that's what you brought up. All right, let's do the over-under. It is brought to you by CCR Realtors. CCR sets the standard when it comes to local real estate. If you're looking to buy or sell, agent Jody Cartagena, see Jody Cartagena for all your real estate needs. Well, if Jody doesn't mind, I'm going to give her sponsorship money back, and we're going to cut this segment out because I suck.
Well, it's funny how you are a Vegas.
You said I say I am.
You said you are, but you were pretty darn close. I mean, last week, I went 2-0. The Shawnee OG game with LCC. We had the over/under of 110. I took the over, and lo and behold, free throws and a couple threes thrown at the end of each game.
Well, I'm going to give you credit. You set the over/under at 110. Like, you have another calling. I mean, you can be a point setter in Vegas.
Hey, I won my fantasy football league in one. I got runner-up the other, and I won last week's pick'em. So I must be doing something right. I'm hanging around you too much.
And you're 5-5 to my 1-9. So, but I knew it was going to come back to bite me because Shawnee stalls for like 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
You were loving it.
Yeah, well, I love that part of it. And then LCC has a breakdown. They get a wide open layup, and they put it in. And there's 25 seconds to go. And Jordan Pretty comes down like, hold the ball. I don't need any more points. He knocks that three down. I'm a little disappointed because that puts him at 59 points for that night. But I'm like, oh, they'll get a lot against OG. They score 53, so I lose that one. The second one was the point differential between St. John's and Jefferson. As I recall, last week, Frank, you said Delphos St. John's has a lot of respect for Jefferson, so it will be a closer game than people would think, but he still took the over, and he still won. The score was 74-29. The over-under was set at 31.5. Frank wins that one.
You said that, so... Yeah. This week, we'll be talking about the undefeated teams in their league that have league games Friday. How many teams will stay undefeated? Ada at Arcadia, Liberty Benton at Van Buren, Arlington versus Macomb at Macomb, Delphos St. John's at Parkway, Temple at Corey Ross.
So these are 5 teams that are undefeated in their league. There were a couple other teams in the PCL and the MAC, but they're both undefeated, so something had to give there. So these were the 5 teams left in their conferences that are undefeated, that will keep an undefeated record after Friday night.
There's 5 games. I think we have to go to the middle. I mean, 3.
I'm taking the over.
I was going to take the over, but I'll let you.
No, you can have it. We both can choose this.
Yeah, we're going over. I'm going over.
Yeah, I mean, the only one, Ada got their scoring streak or winning streak snapped, and Arcadia's playing better. I could see that one. I don't see that in Liberty Benton Van Buren. I don't see that in Arlington Macomb. I don't see that in St. John's Parkway, and I don't see that in Temple Corey Rawson.
I got 3. I think the Liberty Benton at Van Buren is in
trap game
because it's at Van Buren. Van Buren obviously playing better, but is it a trap game? So again, I think that's why I went 3. But obviously, I'm going over.
So we set it at 3.5 or 2.5.
3.5.
3.5, and we both took over, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so the only thing I can do is hope for another win. All right.
How many teams will cover the spread? So obviously, banking off that, Van Buren at Liberty Benton -17.
Liberty Benton's -17. They're favored by 17.
Marion Local at Versailles. Versailles, the home team's getting 5 points.
Ooh.
Van Wert at Elida. Elida's giving 8. Coldwater at Shawnee. Shawnee is giving 19 points. Spencerville at Minster. Minster's getting 12 points. Salina at Wapak. Wapak's giving 8 points. And Shawnee at Delphos St. John's. Delphos St. John's is getting 3 points. I mean, you're a home team,
this is
undefeated, getting 3 points. It was almost like the Browns having a host game the other day and getting 6.5 and getting destroyed. So,
well, I had a guy from Vegas I know set these point totals.
I love it. So we have 7 games. So how many teams will cover the spread, Tapes?
Okay, 7. I'm going to go 4.5.
Go 4.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to go under.
Over. I'm going over on this because I really see.
Because you said it.
Because I have such a good record right now that ananybody that would be betting on this with me would go in just the opposite of what I went.
So I went under, you went over 4.5. Is that what you said? Or 4?
Yeah, 4.5.
4.5. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm hoping 4 out of the 7 come.
I might have to listen to it back. I think I said 4.5. Yeah, it's 4.5.
Once again, we would like to thank our good friends, our sponsors, the Varsity Locker Room Podcast, Frickers of Lima, Stolly Insurance, American Heating and Cooling Conditioning, Jody Cartagena at CCR Realtors, Henderson Concrete, Dalton Brenner at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. You are listening to the Varsity Locker Room Podcast. Listen every Wednesday as we will be recapping last week's game and we'll be previewing the upcoming games of the week. Until next weekend, Happy New Year, fans.